we're talking about Diggs and we're talking about Hopkins. Man, what about the guy that made the throw? Is he your MVP?
It's got to be him or Mahomes at this point.
I'm with you, bro. And I put out a poll. I've been doing these like wacky, weird polls every day, just like it's the most random shit. Like, spoiler and a little behind the scenes. A lot of times, Alan, I'm like taking a dump. I'll just be like, let me fire up a couple of polls.
I don't know if you want to say this publicly, but this is your show, and
Listen,
you want
man,
to put the information out there.
People use the bathroom, and sometimes you're bored, and that's where like some of the greatest ideas of all time get put together.
I'll read or listen, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna like put together ideas and post it online. But hey, we all have a strategy.
So I asked, like, who do you think the MVP is through 10 weeks?
Right.
And for me, I think it's Mahomes and Murray. Mahomes, I think, is entering that territory, bro, of we're going to get tired of him.
Is it LeBron territory?
Very soon, if not already.
Okay.
Yo, you know what I was thinking about the other day, dude? They are 1 yard away from potentially going for a three-peat. Think about it. Frank Clark, right? It was Frank Clark. Frank Clark lines up 2018. They're playing the Pats in the AFC title game.
No, Frank Clark was still in Seattle, I think.
D Ford.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my. Well, they ended up. Yeah, they ended up swapping for each other. Okay.
That trade happened.
So, D Ford lines up off sides.
Yeah, but that was a conference championship. I get what you mean though. If they go Super Bowl, they play the Rams.
They played a
Rams beat them that year. I know it's crazy
true.
Mexico game.
That's true. No.
Oh, it wasn't Mexico.
It was supposed to be in Mexico.
Yeah,
it got moved to LA, and then we had probably the greatest regular season game of all time.
That game, oh my god, I go watch that whenever. Like it was just throw after throw, and I just love the fact there was like 3 defensive touchdowns just thrown in there.
I remember watching that game at the FanDuel Sportsbook with Danny, Josh, Ahmed, and Boss. And I remember Boss turning to me and being like, yo, I know they've scored like 75 points up to this point. It was like going into the fourth quarter. He's like, am I crazy for thinking that the defenses actually played well? I was like, yo, I think they're playing pretty well.
I think like Chris Jones had a big strip. Abubakar had like
yeah. Donald was wreaking havoc.
There were moments. That's why people like, there were obviously some critics, probably some old heads saying, oh, I missed the defensive side of the game. What happened to fundamentals? I'm like, you still had some individual moments, but like, look, we have 2 offensive masterminds going on. We have arguably the best quarterback since Brady, Manning, whatever you want to, everyone could figure out. Like Mahomes is going to be a Hall of Famer most likely, and then you have a Rams offense they've really built a juggernaut. And this was kind of peak Rams offense because Gurley was still thriving, and Cooks just got there, and I think people were still didn't really adjust to McVay yet. McVay was still kind of taking the league by storm. Because they didn't adjust to that fast-paced, hiking the ball when like 20 seconds left. Like McVay was just taking people to task. But no, that game, that was one of my favorite games ever. I don't know. I just don't know how people could criticize that game, especially when you look at both teams and how good they were. Like it could, like you said, could have been a Super Bowl matchup.
Bro, the people that want 10-7 games, like, did you enjoy Cleveland-Houston? Was that an enjoy? For the old heads, that was an enjoyable game.
Did you enjoy that Super Bowl, New England versus LA?
No, you didn't. People were miserable watching that. I was watching that with some friends, and they're like, "Yo, this is the worst shit ever." How do you like? It's like, yeah, if you want old school 1970s ground and pound. Oh, I love defense. Remember a couple of years ago, the Cardinals and Seahawks played like a 6-3.
That game was fun, but it just for complete stupidity. Like I enjoyed it just because like you saw the Pete Carroll meme at the end where he just like. He puts his face like he can't believe it. But no, I get what you mean. Like, you can enjoy good defense, but I want, like, great moments. I want to see sacks. I want to see forced fumbles, actual good interceptions. Because even the Super Bowl, like, when Brady got picked off or if Goff got picked off, it was more just like, oh, wow, Goff didn't read the defense again. Oh, Brady, that pass just really died. Like, there weren't really any spectacular individual efforts. I think McCourty had that one moment.
Where he broke up the pass on Cooks.
Yeah, that was like that. And, like, Brady threw a nice ball to Gronk down the seam. Other than that Super Bowl, I don't remember any moment that really made me say, wow. Because that's what we watch football for. You want to have those significant moments where you're really looking at the brilliance of a play, whether it's a play design or an individual effort. And that's why, you could break it down like looking at defensive games, whether it's, okay, like a TJ Watt or Calais Campbell or, whoever, like really takes over, or it's more of, oh, wow, this is just bad offense. Like these teams don't know what they're doing, or this quarterback just can't make throws.
We went off on like a crazy tangent, but I love it. I want to bring it back to the Mahomes and Murray debate because I really think that those are the two options right now for MVP. 25 touchdowns and 1 interception from Mahomes. I really think that they're just toying with people. Like you said, they're running him in motion. First of all, I've been watching football for 15 years. I've been really understanding it for about 10 of those 15 years. And now I'm like, covering it. I've never seen that. I didn't know that you can motion your quarterback. It's just
anyone has.
Andy Reid is just, it's crazy, right? Like you always think of like, we're so quick to pass the baton to someone else. Like I still think Sean Payton and Andy Reid should be at the top of everyone's best offensive minds list.
Yeah, because it went from McVay to Shanahan, and now the old minds are.
Bro, what about Jay Gruden? Like a little bit like after
when he was in Cincy.
No, I'm talking about when he was in Cincy, and then he went to Washington, and like
he had a little bit of a run.
He had a little bit of a like, yo, it's really good. He was like the NFL Twitter is like.
People like Jay Gruden, but he's just not someone that really commands a locker room. That's the thing.
Yeah, he has no charisma. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. But I think it's really Mahomes and Murray. And the fascinating thing about Kyler Murray is that if you look at his numbers this was prior to the Buffalo game, which, he kind of had his MVP moment so far, right? Like the Hail Mary, like everyone has that like signature moment from their MVP season. Lamar Jackson, it was that like spin move against the Bengals. I know it's the Bengals. They won 1 or 2 games last year, but it was that 50-yard run against the Bengals. And then he had that big Monday Night Football game where he lit up the Rams in LA. So like you had your 2 moment games. Like every quarterback has those, either the game or the moment play. And I think with Kyler, you have the Hail Mary. But even prior to the Bills game, dude, he had better statistical numbers than what Lamar Jackson did last year up until the same point that they were at. Right. And I think the difference between Kyler Murray and Pat Mahomes is I think Murray has less talent around him than Mahomes does on both sides of the ball. If you were to combine the whole roster of teams, put it this way.
And coaching staff.
Which, okay, let's factor in everything. Coaching staff and 53-man roster, excluding the quarterback. Right. Which one are you taking?
It's no comparison.
It's Kansas City.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Right.
So that's where I mean that, D-Hop is probably, if you're playing 7-on-7, D-Hop is your first pick from both like offenses and both teams. Mm-hmm. But I think Murray is doing it a lot with his feet, right? Like I think I saw some shit in fantasy. He's like a top 10 running back.
Yeah, he might end up with like 175 carries. Well, I think last year he only had 90. Or it was some crazy stat. And what I find so impressive is like you see a lot of his runs, it's like these option looks to the left. Like a lot of his touchdowns go to the left, and for some reason these defense are just not catching up on it. They're not reacting. You just see, because a lot of his touchdowns this year, he's going either untouched or he's getting hit at the 2-yard line. And these are like 15, 20-yard gains.
Well, do you think that it's unconventional for a right-handed quarterback to always roll to his left? Do you think teams aren't adjusting because of that? Because your natural instinct. Look, I played quarterback, tremendous high school quarterback. You know what I'm saying, Alan? But your tendency, though, just as a quarterback and knowing the position, compared myself to Kyler Murray, like who's better than me? You know what I'm saying? But in all seriousness, your tendency as a quarterback is to always roll to the side of your throwing hand because you're not going across your body. Like, it's a mad hard throw to make. You know what the greatest throw I've ever seen? Your boy Matt Ryan. Boston College. They're playing on like a Thursday night football game, I think against Virginia, Virginia Tech.
Classic Thursday night game.
It's maybe not the greatest throw I've ever seen, but it's like it's an iconic throw. I'll always mention this. Bro, he's rolling out to his left, and they're on like their 40, and he throws a ball, Allen, to the back far right end zone. That's like a 60-yard throw rolling to your left. Like, bro, that is a hard throw to make. Yeah. So I'm asking you what you think. Do you think it might be an adjustment for defenses that haven't picked up? Because it's like unconventional to be a right-handed quarterback and run to your left.
It could be that, especially when, everyone knows now how big motion is. Like you see the most efficient offenses running motion. And once you have like a Christian Kirk or, they might be doing something with, Chase Edmonds, for instance. Once you have that little motion, it just causes that deception. Once a little disguise happens, defenses are shifting the wrong way. Next thing you know, your linebacker, because a lot of teams are playing nickel, like about 65% of the time you have nickel, so you only have two linebackers. And once one linebacker gets taken out, it creates an opening, and you never know what's like with safety, because some teams just can't tackle. So, and a player as dynamic as Murray can make someone miss an open field because, man, of all the quarterbacks, I think, I don't know if Murray's the hardest to bring down because, Cam Newton's still obviously playing, but he is just so elusive. And I don't think there's a quarterback, if you want to look at his arm, throws with more velocity than Murray. Like his fastball, I know he comes from a baseball background, I get that. But it's just when he puts it on, like it just blazes through. And I also like the fact that he kind of knows how to diagnose mismatches, like you saw against Seattle. He saw Hopkins one-on-one with Dunbar. He had the little smirk.
Yeah.
Bang. Like he's very clever, Kyler Murray. And I think now it's just people are catching up on him because last year you never really saw him on TV. And now he's in these 425 slots where he's going up against Tua or he's going up against Josh Allen. And, I think this is just kind of a testament to how good of a place the NFL is in right now because there are just so many exciting young quarterbacks. Like there is always these good matches. Like, oh, I want to watch him. All right, Chargers might be terrible, but look, Herbert, he's must watch. So, but going back to Murray, I think what I'm most impressed about is, like, yeah, he's poised and yeah, he's done a better job reading defenses, but I just think he's the complete package as a quarterback when it comes to just being a playmaker. Like there are so many things you have to prepare for. Like he probably causes defensive coordinators to lose sleep because just trying to prepare for him, especially now, like you look at Seattle in a short week and with how much they've struggled defensively, it's like, what are we going to do? Because Kingsbury, he's not holding back. They will run options 6 to 8 times a game. If Murray has to run the ball 10 times, so be it because, we're trying to score 30 points at the end of the game.
He's my quarterback in my yearly league, and it's unbelievable how many, I wouldn't say bad, but if he didn't have rushing upside, you don't start him in your fantasy leagues. But, he's just dropping 25 like it's nothing in leagues. Mm-hmm. And I think one thing that you mentioned about him being hard to bring down, I think it has a lot to do with his size, right? Like, again, going back to that word unconventional, like he's not your prototypical quarterback, right? He's undersized. Even Kingsbury cut his ass. Like he probably didn't even see D-Hop down there because he's so short. Like, but that's what makes him great, right? The way he's elusive. And I think with Kyler Murray, man, as someone who's financially invested in the proposition of him being MVP, I still would say I want to say it's Murray, but I just feel like Mahomes might throw like 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and they might lose 2 games all year.
But Murray saw some opportunities because, look, as we know, when you have those national primetime moments.
This is a big one for him. If he could perform on primetime again, right? Because he did this a couple weeks ago against Seattle where.
I thought you were going to mention Dallas. I was like, I don't know if we're going to count Dallas.
No. But I feel like that was the coming out party for him. Because that's the first time that we really saw Arizona against a good team in primetime against Seattle in division. And they had some moments in that game, and he played well. You had the D-Hop laughing, giggling because Dunbar was on him. And now I think it's, again, what you said. And now he's going into the 12. I know there's no crowd, but Seattle's still a tough place to play, man.
Right. And you might get a game flux or 2 in there because Arizona is a good team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know they still have to play the Rams, which will help. So, as we know, like when you get those nationally televised games, it could sway opinion a lot. And, those are the games where you really want to deliver. So, no, there's still a chance. It's just, I don't know. Mahomes just seems untouchable right now. Like it seems like he can't do anything wrong. It's kind of fascinating that he's going against the Raiders, the one team that kind of got him this year. Of all the teams, Oakland or Vegas, excuse me. I'm interested to see how he because Mahomes had a couple of wonky throws in that game, but that game's gonna be on Sunday night too, and you never know what Gruden's cooking up.
We are blessed with primetime games this week.
This is very true.
We got Seattle, Arizona on Thursday. We got the Raiders and the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Then on Monday night, we got Tampa Bay and the Rams.
First great Monday night game in like 6 weeks.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's so crazy, right? The last good one was probably Baltimore, Kansas City. Like on paper, it didn't play out that way. And also, like the Giants-Bucks game was more compelling than people thought. It came down to the end. And even Jets-Pats. I feel you because that was my reaction also. But, dude, I really think that, for people listening to this and they're probably yelling because a lot of people told me Aaron Rodgers. So like, bro, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm genuinely happy for Aaron Rodgers because, as you know, he was getting kind of written off last year. And granted, he didn't play as well. Like, you kind of saw, it's just the stats weren't there. I think, like, he was averaging, 6.8 yards per attempt. They had, like, a real conservative offense. There's no denying, like, Rodgers has really stepped up this year. And people could talk about, is he motivated or not, but I don't care. Like, he's just making those throws, like, that a prime Aaron Rodgers would make. And he's really elevating the players around him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's elevating a lot of guys around him. They're getting Allen Lazard back this week.
That's big.
That's big for them because if you remember the last time we saw him, Allen, was that Saints game where I believe there was no Devontae Adams in that, and he really ran wild. Right. Put up like 150 or 140 and a touchdown.
And they won in New Orleans. And look, I know pandemic, no fans, but still, you win in New Orleans. That's a statement. I don't care what it is. Like, winning in New Orleans is not easy whatsoever. So, that was one of those wins you kind of have to recognize Green Bay because I think Green Bay has a bit of a reputation for being front runners. They kind of fall short in big games. Like, I know Tampa Bay beat them pretty bad, but still, I think Rodgers, whether it's a chip on his shoulder or not, I just see him. He's not like, I don't know if he looks more inspired, but you just see him. He's making more big time throws, which I just don't think we saw in like 2018 or 19. Like, I just feel like this year he's delivering more often, whether it's to Adams or if he's getting Tanyan involved as well. And using those running backs, like, look, Aaron Jones, he's a real dynamic playmaker, and it took Mike McCarthy getting out of there for them to finally use him, whether it's in the slot or on the outside. We've seen now Aaron Jones is causing real damage to the pass game, kind of like, a replica of Alvin Kamara in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think when I look at the landscape of the NFC, and as we kind of wind down this conversation about the MVP talks, I think it's Murray, it's Rodgers. I feel like Brady's in the mix too.
Not after that New Orleans game.
Not after the New Orleans.
That's
a wild
dud,
right?
Like, to me, like, I still want to mention Russ, but I'll admit, like, Russ kind of fell apart in that
last 3 games. He has like 8 turnovers.
Yeah, so it's hard because you gotta understand, to be MVP, there's not a lot of leeway. Like, you got to be consistently great week in and week out. You can have a dud or 2 here and there, but when you start turning the ball over a lot and your team is losing, it's like we can't really justify it, So, like, I think Russ has a much stronger case than Brady. If you want to mention him, I just, like, even this week, for instance, like, okay, they blew Carolina. You watched that game. Brady missed Evans a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
He had Gronk for a while, but
Godwin as well. Yeah,
Brady, like, I think Brady's done better than I expected, but he's still leaving a lot of opportunities there.
Okay, let me ask you this, and then there's another topic I definitely want to touch on with you. Mm-hmm. Who's your MVP that's not a quarterback?
It's gotta be a Kamara or Cook. I love Dalvin Cook so. Yeah, I've always been talking about.
You've always been a Dalvin guy,
dude. He's just the machine, man.
Yeah. Do you want to know a trade that I passed up on that involved him?
Oh boy,
you're gonna leave the room. You might even like spit on the wall paintings.
No, it's too beautiful. I couldn't do no such thing. I just might take a sip of water and just shake my head. That's my most polite reaction.
So this is prior to the Packer game. It was prior to the Packer game.
So this is like early November?
This is like maybe 3 weeks ago. This is 3 games ago. Because he's been on this like...
Because they played Green Bay week 1. They got smoked. That was when it's like, oh, Rodgers is back.
Right. Yeah. No, but this is the second matchup. Okay. And Marco, our buddy Marco, he has Dalvin Cook in the league. And he's like, yo, Ezekiel Elliott, Terry McLaurin for Dalvin Cook. And I said, no, I didn't want to give up Terry McLaurin. And then since that trade didn't go through, I think Dalvin Cook in 3 games has 100 points.
And you've always been anti-Zeke too.
Bro, it wasn't Zeke. I wanted to give up Zeke. I didn't want to give up Scary Terry, baby.
I love Scary Terry. Who doesn't love Scary Terry? But, oh, man. It's
brutal.
Those kind of moves.
Brutal. And then the week after, he's like, yo, those 2, and I want Godwin also. And I said no, and then he put up 45.
Fantasy, man.
You got to love it. You got to love it, baby.